Hey, what is up YouTube? Kolst here, and I am here again making another update to our tier list video because there was a patch on Friday which had major impacts for Arena, we will say, and it impacted Arena even more than Blizzard intended due to a pretty significant bug, which we're going to be talking about in a second. But in any case, I have my old tier list pulled up, so we will be making a few adjustments to this because some of this stuff is going to impact the balance. And of course, it's always like, subscribe, all these things. Okay, let's just start talking about these things. So first of all, there were a few cards that were changed mainly for standard. I'm a bit surprised by the first one here. This one, probably the most significant for Arena, is that Construct Quarter is being nerfed from 3 durability to 2. Obviously, this was a very strong card, accessible to all rune types for Death Knight, so very significant nerf there. This is still going to be a good card, don't get me wrong, but that's a significant nerf there. Vengeful Walloper here in Demon Hunter, not a card you saw a whole lot, probably still not a card you're going to see a whole lot, but it was nerfed, so it's going to be even less likely you see it now. And Light Ray, also a card that you usually didn't draft all that highly in Paladin, but this card's getting nerfed as well, so you're probably going to, continue to not draft it, or even draft it less than you might have. But with that, let's move on to the Arena-specific changes here, which is that card appearance rates were adjusted. High power class cards for Death Knight, Hunter, Mage, Shaman, and Paladin. I believe when they launched this, they didn't include Shaman in the list, but they stealth edited it to actually add Shaman. So they're nerfing 5 classes here, and then they're also buffing 2 classes. High power class cards for Demon Hunter and Warrior will appear more frequently. And they've also banned a few cards, which I think all these cards, except for Astalor, but the Countess, Feldroy Warbland, Deal with the Devil, these are cards that are very synergy based. They have like specific deck building conditions that you can't realistically meet in Arena, even though especially Deal with the Devil was a totally fine card as was. This is 5 mana for 2/3/3 lifesteals. They just decided a lot of those cards are already banned, so they're doing this more for consistency. But the big significant change here is that Astalor is no longer able to be drafted. Instead of drafting it, you have to discover it with Paparazzi. It's not going to be gone, but at least it's going to be a little bit less common. The one thing I have to say is that these were kind of interesting choices, at least some of these, for the classes that they chose to nerf. Like specifically, Hunter is nerfed here. I want to pull up my tier list right here, which is that I only had Hunter down here in B tier, and they're not nerfing Priest. But of course, apart from that, they are nerfing everything else that I had B tier and above, and they are buffing 2 out of the 3 classes that were D tier. Sorry, Warlock, I guess. And as with any time they make these kind of changes, where exactly they draw the nerf and buff lines, these will have pretty major impact. But actually, before I start talking about that, there is one other thing I need to mention, the bug that I teased earlier, which is that basically anything that is able to generate random cards, be that a Discover or a minion that summons a random minion, for example, are able to discover from a lot of things that are in Wild. So just for example here, this was in my VOD from yesterday, and you can see this was a hipster discover, and I'm able to discover 3 cards that you are not supposed to be able to discover right now. I think all of these cards were like, 2018 or something, so it's not clear exactly if it's all of Wild that's discoverable or just specific sets, but yeah, there's a lot of cards, and that has a bit of an impact on the meta as well, and especially on your drafting, because I'm not sure exactly how much to gauge that impact, but there's definitely some level that, discovers are made weaker by this. It wouldn't be enough to say, like, skip every discover, because there's still, as you can see, a lot of really good options here. And especially Hipster against Death Knight is still very strong. But I think it definitely is enough that, if you have a close pick between 2 cards and one of them's a Discover, that might just make you lean, towards the non-Discover. But in any case, let's go back to talking about these classes in the tier list now. So I'll go off of the existing tier list, because nowadays when Blizzard makes these kind of adjustments, they don't tend to make super massive changes. Usually the class order tends to remain relatively the same, but there will be some movement based off of what they decide to move up and down. So first of all, let's talk about the big thing that is not going to be changing, which is Death Knight. Death Knight is staying as the sole member of S tier. Although they were nerfed, it's not super clear based off of like the data on EHS Replay so far exactly how much they changed, but it does not appear that they did a whole lot to Death Knight. I think they adjusted a lot of cards, but they just did not adjust them by very much. So the critical thing there is that their discovers, again, are still very good because they don't really have the discover problem that other classes do, and they still get a whole lot of their discovers. So Death Knight is still very easily in S tier. And it's very possible once they fix that bug, maybe that'll close the gap between Death Knight and everyone else, but for now I think it's pretty clear that Death Knight is the best. And now for some of these other classes, I'm kind of guessing where they're going to end up exactly, but it was clear that Shaman again was nerfed and Paladin was nerfed as well, as they said. Shaman particularly losing at least some of their Pack the Houses, and Paladin, I didn't check exactly, but they lost a significant amount of power as well. I believe Shaman was not nerfed as hard as Paladin was. But in any case, this will not be enough for me on this list to actually move them down because, again, some of the other classes here were nerfed as well. But the one change I will make is that Priest is going to move up into the A tier. Now, I think it might be fair to say that part of this as well is that Priest has, just by chance, or not really by chance, by design, a lot of ways to steal cards, and you're seeing everyone spamming Death Knight for somewhat obvious reasons, and when you get to steal Death Knight cards as Priest, they're really, really good. So I don't think that puts Priest quite at the level of a Death Knight, but it is their closest competition, I believe, right now. And actually, I think I said I would keep Paladin this tier. Actually, I do believe Paladin was hit a little bit harder than Shaman, so I'm actually going to be moving Paladin down into the B tier as well. But there are going to be two other changes to this B tier, as Hunter specifically being the worst class that got nerfed. Kind of the most surprising change probably out of all the changes they made. Other than the Astalor ban, I didn't really expect that either, not that I'm complaining at all, but Hunter is going to definitely drop into the C tier because, again, like I kind of don't even think they deserve to be nerfed, but sorry Hunter. It's not enough to drop you into garbage tier, but yeah, not a great time to be playing Hunter anymore. And the other change to the B tier is that the best class, I believe, which was buffed, Demon Hunter, is going to move up all the way into the B tier. Essentially, Demon Hunter takes the place of Hunter and even like Druid and Warrior, for example, as that class you pick if you just want to play tempo and try to, you know, kill the better classes rather than actually competing with them in a value game. I'm actually going to move Demon Hunter up to the top of this tier because they are by far the most equipped to do that. And this one's a little bit close, honestly. I could put them in either tier, but I said I would make a 2 additions, but I will make one more addition to the B tier, which is Warrior. Warrior's really, I think, in between B and C tier right now. And so is Mage at this exact moment, because Mage is really getting impacted by the Discovers being weaker. But I think once that's fixed, Mage will definitely be solidly in the B tier at the very least. But that does hurt them. Warrior doesn't have nearly that much of a problem, but they're just, you know, they started at the bottom and now they're in the middle at least. And that leaves us with the last 2 tiers here, and I already dropped Hunter down into here, and then you have the other 2 classes, Druid and Rogue. These were the bad classes that Blizzard just decided not to buff this time, so, you know, they're just gonna stay exactly where they are. And in addition, the other class they decided not to buff is Warlock. Poor Warlock. They were the only class at the bottom tier that did not even get buffed, so they just get to sit at the bottom for a while until Blizzard decides to buff them, I guess. If you're a Warlock fan, you're just gonna have to be waiting until the next balance patch, and then maybe they'll give, like, Hunter back its cards, and then Druid and Rogue some love as well. I think Warlock just needs a lot of help, and Druid and Rogue particularly needs help just getting more consistency in their tempo tools. They have a lot of value, but they really just need tempo to be able to compete with some of the top classes. But the good news is, I guess, because of the bug, they're definitely going to have to patch Arena soon. I don't know that they're going to do another micro adjust that early, but they're definitely going to have to, you know, fix that whole wild generation bug we have here. I'm recording this as Saturday. On Friday, we realized they weren't going to fix it on Friday, and they should be fixing it probably relatively early this week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, and then we'll see. I don't expect things to change too much for this tier list, but if there are major changes, I will release an update video, but I expect probably the next update I'll make will be the next time they make intended adjustments rather than just fixing the bug. Hopefully, at least. But anyway, if you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, comment, all these things. I'll be streaming on Twitch, of course, as usual. If I do hear a thunderstorm going on outside, so hopefully that doesn't knock out my internet, assuming it doesn't. But anyway, thanks a lot for hanging out. We'll see you all in the next one.